What if I told you you're already more successful than 90% of traders, but you just don't see it yet? Let me explain. Most traders chase a dream of six-figure profits, Lambos, and screenshots with massive green days. But the truth? Real trading success is rarely that loud. In fact, it's quiet, it's subtle, it's boring even. It looks like something that almost every trader underestimates: small profits. Break-even months, days when you didn't lose, days when you didn't overtrade, moments when you walked away when things felt off. Those are the signs. That's the proof. And guess what? That means you're doing way better than you think. Do you want to know why? Because most traders are still stuck in a cycle of hope, greed, and revenge. But if you're watching this video, you might already be ahead quietly, gradually, steadily. And today I want to show you just how far you've come, even if you don't feel it yet. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a trade thinking, why didn't I take profit there? Why did I hold? Did I mess up? Or maybe you had a winning day, but it didn't feel like a win, so you brushed it off like it was nothing. That's not just you. That's your brain playing tricks on you. And it's more common than you think. There's actually a name for this. Psychologists call it the liking gap. Originally, it described how we often think we made a bad impression after talking to someone, when in reality, they liked us more than we believed. But in trading, I call it the progress gap. It's when you underestimate how much progress you've made as a trader just because your results don't look flashy, just because you're not yet where you want to be. But guess what? The fact that you're even self-aware enough to be critical of your performance, that means you've already crossed the most important barrier. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I mentored a new trader named Kaloy. He was obsessed with finding the perfect strategy. Every week, he jumped from one indicator to another, from RSI to VWAP, from scalping to swing. His P&L all over the place. After 3 months, he said to me, "I think I'm failing. I'm not making money. Maybe this isn't for me." But I looked at his trades. I said, "You know what I see? You stopped revenge trading. You cut your losses early. You didn't blow up. You have edge now. It just needs time." That was 3 years ago. Today, he's a consistently profitable trader, not a millionaire, not a trading guru, but someone who controls his risk, grows his accounts steadily, and lives free on his own terms. That's success. But back then, he couldn't see it, because his internal scoreboard only looked at one thing: money. Sound familiar? Let's look at this deeper. Why do we underestimate ourselves? One word: negativity bias. We're wired to remember losses more than wins. It's biological. Our brains evolved to prioritize danger over comfort. Back in the day, it kept us alive. But now, in the markets, it just makes us anxious, paranoid, doubtful. You remember the trade you messed up 2 weeks ago, but you forgot the 3 small wins you stacked just last week? You remember the time you froze and missed the breakout, but you forget how disciplined you were for sitting out a choppy day. Your brain is not designed to track progress. It's designed to spot problems. But here's the real problem. When you keep doubting your own progress, you stop recognizing the small wins that matter. And when that happens, you stop building confidence. And without confidence, trading becomes a war with yourself. Have you ever noticed that you only feel successful when your trades go perfectly? But that's not how success works. Think about athletes. A basketball player doesn't shoot 100%. A boxer doesn't win every round. Even champions lose rounds, miss shots, and fumble. But what makes them successful is how they recover, how they respond, how they show up again. Same in trading. You will have red days, you will miss trades, you will make mistakes, but those moments don't define you. What defines you is, did you journal that trade? Did you learn something? Did you go back the next day with more clarity? If you did that, that's success. Now let's talk about comparison. Social media will ruin your self-worth if you let it. You see traders posting 5-figure gains, fancy cars, trading from the beach. But what you don't see? The risk they took, the 10 years of failure before that post. Or worse, you don't see the ones who blew up chasing the same dream. So let me say it clearly, just because someone posts profits doesn't mean they're better than you. And just because you don't post anything doesn't mean you're failing. You are in your own lane, and in that lane, even break-even is a sign of growth, especially if you used to lose consistently before. Let's flip this. Here are signs you're more successful than you think. You stopped overtrading. You recognize bad setups and skip them. You size down when conditions are unclear. You no longer FOMO into hype plays. You take small green days and protect your capital. You journal, reflect, adjust. You stay in the game even after losses. You stop needing to prove anything to anyone. If any of those sound like you, you're already ahead of 90% of people who treat trading like gambling. But I get it. Your results don't feel like success because you're still waiting for the big day, the breakout moment, the validation. But here's the truth. That moment won't arrive until you start recognizing the quiet victories that are happening right now. Trading isn't about impressing others. It's about mastering yourself. Let's break something important down. Have you ever felt this? You have a solid plan, you follow it, you even profit. But after the trade, something inside still whispers, "You could have done better!" Or, "That was lucky, not skill." That voice is self-doubt, and it's louder than it should be. Researchers at Harvard and Cornell studied this in social interactions. People consistently underestimated how much others liked them after a conversation. They walked away thinking, "I was awkward," but the other person actually enjoyed the chat. That gap? It's what they called the liking gap. And in trading, you live in the progress gap. You're judging your performance by a distorted lens. You're blind to your growth. But I want to open your eyes. Because once you see your progress, confidence returns. Not arrogance, not overconfidence, just quiet belief. Let's go even deeper. Do you know the cost of misjudging your progress? You start avoiding trades. You hesitate when it's time to execute. You stop journaling. You isolate yourself. You chase again. Why? Because deep down you think you're not improving. That belief becomes a filter, and suddenly everything you do confirms it. That's called confirmation bias. You start ignoring the good and magnifying the bad. But what if you flipped that? What if you trained your brain to look for wins, even small ones? I stopped before overtrading. Win. I respected my stop loss. Win. I waited for my setup. Win. These wins build belief. Belief builds behavior, and behavior builds your future. Let me close this part with something real. The market rewards those who respect the craft, not the loudest, not the flashiest, but those who keep showing up, who stay humble, who take the small steps. And if you're one of them, you're more successful than you think. Don't let your brain lie to you. Recognize your growth, own your progress, and keep going. Can you imagine being ahead of most traders, yet still feeling like you're falling behind? That's the trap many get stuck in. Because success in trading is not loud, it's not thrilling, it's not TikTok-worthy. It's measured in moments of self-control, in the trades you didn't take, in the risks you didn't force, in the ego you silenced. Most traders are chasing dopamine, but you're building discipline. And that's the difference. Let's talk about your trading identity. Because here's something powerful. The moment you stop defining yourself by your last trade, your growth becomes exponential. So many traders collapse emotionally after a red day. They spiral. They question everything. But pros treat a red day like a data point, not a death sentence. And that shift? That's identity. A real trader doesn't say, "I suck because I lost." They say, "Interesting, that setup didn't work in this condition. Let's tweak it." The moment you start thinking that way, you're leveling up. And if you're already doing this, you're more successful than you give yourself credit for. Let me tell you about Julia. Julia was in our trading group. She wasn't loud. She didn't flex her profit. She barely posted anything. But every week she showed up. She journaled. She asked smart questions. She adjusted her strategy little by little. After a while, people started noticing she was always calm, never rattled. Someone asked her, "How do you stay so stable even when the market is insane?" She smiled and said, "Because I already expect chaos. My job isn't to control the market, it's to control myself." That mindset, pure gold. She wasn't chasing perfection, she was chasing consistency. Let's pause here. Ask yourself, are you journaling regularly? Are you reviewing your trades weekly? Are you trading less but winning more? Are your losses smaller than they used to be? Are you emotionally stable after red days? If the answer is yes to even two of those, you're not failing, you're growing. You're stabilizing your foundation. And strong foundations, they lead to exponential growth, but you won't notice it in real time. It's like weight loss or muscle gain. You don't see it daily, but others will. Eventually, you will too. Now, let's talk about self-talk, because how you talk to yourself after a loss matters more than the loss itself. Some traders say, "I knew I wasn't good enough. Why do I always mess up? Maybe I'm just not cut out for this." But high-level traders say, "That was a tough setup. Let's recheck the logic. This one loss doesn't define me. The market was tricky today. Good thing I sized small." The language you use rewires your brain. You're either reinforcing fear or building resilience. So what's your internal script? Because that determines your trading future more than any indicator. Let's go a little deeper. Have you ever looked back at your old trades and cringed? Good. That means you've grown. It means you have awareness now. When you can look at your past behavior and say, "Wow, I would never do that now," that's evidence of improvement. So stop punishing yourself for the old version of you. Celebrate the upgrade, because most traders never even make it to that point. They blow up, quit, and never get a chance to cringe. But you're still here. Still evolving, still showing up. Let's talk about boredom. You know what most winning traders have in common? Their routines are boring. Same setup, same hours, same risk, same checklist. And most people can't handle that. They crave action, movement, thrill. But trading isn't about adrenaline, it's about execution. Discipline is boring, but boredom is the price of consistency. You have to fall in love with the grind, the monotony, the repetition, because that's where real growth lives. Not in the excitement, but in the boring stuff you do when no one is watching. Now let's destroy another myth. You don't need big profits to prove you're good. You need consistency. Even 1% a week? That's over 67% in a year, compounded. But no one brags about 1% weeks, so we think it doesn't matter. But let me ask you, would you rather swing for 20% and blow up 3 times a year? Or quietly stack 1-2% a week and grow forever? This game isn't about going viral, it's about going the distance. Let me leave you with this before we go into part 3. Success doesn't scream, it whispers. It's in the small decisions, the subtle improvements, the invisible wins. You're probably doing better than you realize, so give yourself credit, not for being perfect, but for progressing. And if you're still here watching, learning, reflecting, then you're already in the top tier, because most traders gave up a long time ago. Let's talk about one of the biggest blind spots traders have. Emotional memory. Not your P&L, not your win rate, but how you felt during trades. Because here's a truth most ignore. We remember feelings longer than numbers. You might forget a +60 green day, but you won't forget the time you panicked and gave back a week of profits in one trade. That's emotional memory. And if you're not aware of it, it will quietly build fear, self-doubt, and hesitation into your system. But the good news? You can rewire it. You do it by replacing chaotic emotions with controlled ones. You journal your emotional state. You create anchors. You reflect. You intentionally cool down after losses. You reward yourself for discipline, not just profit. That's how you turn trading from an emotional roller coaster into a grounded process. Now let me introduce something even deeper, identity lag. It's the psychological delay between who you used to be and who you are now. Your habits have changed. Your process has matured. You've improved. But your mind still sees the older version of you. It's like a software update that hasn't fully installed yet. So you downplay your progress. You act like you're still a beginner. You feel like you're not ready, even though your behavior says otherwise. If you watch the market without chasing, risk manage without reminders, feel bored during perfect trades because they're so clean, don't feel the need to share every win. That's not amateur behavior. That's professional energy. And you need to own that, because your self-perception must catch up with your new identity. If you still treat yourself like a reckless gambler when you're now a calculated executor, you're living in the past. It's time to update the identity. Now let's talk about control. Most traders are obsessed with control. Control over outcomes, control over entries, control over what the market will do next. But true traders know this. You can't control the market. You control one thing, your response. The setup doesn't need to work, but you need to follow the plan. The trade might go red, but you need to cut it early. The environment might be random, but you show up with structure. When you finally let go of needing control out there and instead focus on control in here, that's when trading becomes peaceful. Yes, peaceful. Not always fun, not always exciting, but calm, focused, clean. If you've tasted even a little of that lately, you're doing better than 90% of traders who are still chasing external chaos. Let me shift gears. Have you ever had a trading session where you sat patiently for 2 hours, took only one trade, made a small profit, closed your platform and went on with your day, and yet you still felt like you didn't do enough? That's called performance anxiety. It's when we equate activity with value. We're conditioned to believe that hustle equals worth, that doing more equals doing better. But in trading, that's deadly. Overtrading kills accounts. But here's the truth. Sitting out is a skill. Waiting is a skill. Doing nothing is discipline. And if you've learned to do less, you're finally becoming a trader, not just someone who presses buttons. Let's talk about burnout, because this happens more than people admit. You're not physically tired, but you feel numb, disconnected. Your charts blur together. You feel like every trade is the same. That's emotional fatigue, and it comes from internal pressure, the pressure to perform, the pressure to be perfect, the pressure to make this your escape. Here's the cure. Reconnect with your process. Strip it back to basics. Take one trade a day. Stop watching others. Go for a walk. Breathe. Journal. Play music. Remind yourself why you started, because your worth is not in your results. It's in your resilience. And if you're still showing up, despite the fatigue, despite the doubts, that's proof you're stronger than you think. Now here's something wild. Sometimes success doesn't feel good. Sounds crazy, right? But here's why. You finally start winning and you're terrified it won't last. You've struggled for so long that peace feels suspicious. You ask yourself, am I just lucky? What if this is temporary? What if I give it all back next week? That's imposter syndrome. It makes you feel like you don't deserve the win. But you do. You earned it. You showed up. You stayed patient. You took clean setups. You didn't gamble. You didn't force. So own it. Success might feel strange at first, but that's just your nervous system adjusting to a new normal. Let it. Breathe into it. Grow with it. You deserve peace. You deserve progress. And if it feels unfamiliar, that's okay. It just means you're growing. Now, as we wrap this part up, let me remind you of something powerful. Progress is not always visible. It's not always in the charts. It's not always in your account size. Sometimes it's in the way you handle frustration, in the way you journal a loss, in the way you sleep well after a tough day because you didn't break your rules. That's real growth. And if you keep stacking those silent victories, one day you'll look back and realize you were more successful than you ever gave yourself credit for. You've come this far, and it's time we land this message with something powerful. Something that doesn't just motivate for a few hours, but sticks with you the next time you're staring at your charts, doubting yourself, or questioning why you even started. Because here's the ultimate truth. The market doesn't reward noise. It rewards discipline. It rewards patience. It rewards survivors. Most traders are chasing excitement, shortcuts, and dopamine hits from wins that disappear just as fast. But the successful ones? They're the ones who show up on the boring days. The ones who stop romanticizing the big wins and start respecting the small ones. They're the ones who stop asking, how can I make this exciting? And start asking, how can I make this sustainable? Ask yourself right now, did I follow my plan today? Did I cut a losing trade without hesitation? Did I walk away after a small win instead of overtrading? If the answer is yes to any of those, then you've already won. Because the version of you from 6 months ago wouldn't have done that. That version would have chased the market, held on too long, let emotions control the session. You didn't. And that's success in its rawest, realest form. So stop comparing your quiet wins to someone else's highlight reel. And when you hear that voice in your head whisper, "You're not progressing fast enough," remind yourself, maybe that voice is wrong, because the results you can't see are often the ones that matter the most, the moments you didn't trade when you wanted to, the self-control that no one claps for, the 1% improvement you made today that no one notices. That's what compounds. That's what builds confidence. That's what builds longevity. You don't need viral trades. You need quiet consistency. You need to survive until your edge shows itself over time. And that only happens when you stop trying to impress others and start focusing on protecting your own mindset. So the next time you feel behind your goals, behind that trader online, behind the version of success you imagined, pause, breathe, zoom out. You are not failing. You are learning. You are not slow. You are maturing. You are not average. You are building something real. Final words. If you're still in the game, still showing up to improve, still taking care of your mental capital, you've already succeeded. You just don't realize how powerful that is yet. But one day, you will. And when that day comes, you'll look back and realize, I didn't just become a better trader, I became a stronger person. And that's the ultimate profit.